This will be a simple tutorial of how to make a Canva video from beginning to end using footage of your own or the stock library. The first thing we need to do from the Canva home screen is to go to Create a Design and select Video. Note that you can search for video and find predetermined dimensions for any number of platforms. However, most of these are simply 1080 by 1920 or 1920 by 1080. So we can just start with this default video option. Now, if you're in a hurry, and especially if you have a certain genre of video in mind, there's a lot of templates you can begin with. For instance, if we wanted to use their product review templates as a starting point, we can select individual slides that we want, or just select Apply All Pages to add them to the timeline at once. By the way, I may use the term pages, slides, and clips more or less synonymously because unlike most other video editors, Canva is designed a little bit like slides in a PowerPoint or Keynote presentation, as opposed to the non-linear format you might have used in something like iMovie. In any case, you can customize these to your liking and substitute various images, update the text, and so forth. What we're going to focus on is how to build your own from scratch. Let's say that I want to make a tutorial about maybe how to brew a cup of coffee. And we'll pretend I have some original footage, but as a stand-in for that, here is a stock clip that should do the job. So I've simply clicked on it and it appeared on my slide. I'm going to set it as background if I want it to fill up the full screen here. And we can preview it with this play and pause button, or we can use this one up here to preview our entire presentation in a theater mode. By the way, the timeline can be viewed in this default presentation or by clicking the Zoom Thumbnails button, which lets you resize the preview. Whereas if we go back to the default of Zoom Page, now we can zoom in or out on the clips in our timeline. This is going to be helpful when we have multiple audio tracks on top of the video. Now let's add in one more clip, which I'm going to click and drag as a new page. Or I could have clicked the plus icon to create the new slide first, and then clicked the clip to add it. Either way. So at this point, I also want to add a transition between the two, because right now, Canva will simply cut from one to the next abruptly. But I want to make that a little more gradual and not so jarring for the viewer. So we'll go with a dissolve transition, and the default duration of half a second is just fine. Let's see what that looks like. You can see how it fades into the second and out of the first simultaneously. Now, let's say I want to add some captions to explain what's happening in this clip. To do that, we can go to Text, and there's plenty of presets that may or may not match your style, but I'll just use one of these default headings to keep it simple. And I won't get into the nuances of editing text and text effects in Canva because there's a lot more to that, but I will just change it to white for visibility. So first off, you'll need to grind your coffee, let's say, and I'll position this in the bottom left. Right now, this entire 13-second clip is all going to say grind your coffee. And the problem is that the text is tied to the duration of the slide that we have placed it on. So does that mean we have to duplicate this entire slide to just show different text? Well, no. What we can do is put this vertical line, which is known as the playhead, wherever we think the text should change. Let's say it's right here. And now with that playhead in the right place, I'm going to right-click the playhead and select Split Page. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut of S. And as the name suggests, that splits the single clip into two. The second one picks up right where the first left off. And of course it preserved our original text, but now because this is a separate clip, we're free to change it. So let's say step 2 is to pour coffee into coffee maker. And I'll go back and add a number 1 here. So now let's preview our clip. You can see that the text changes even as the clip continues playing. Let's say that we want to preserve this style of text, but apply it as a caption on our third clip. To do that, select the text element and copy. Now we'll go to the third clip and paste. That way we don't have to repeat any of those text settings that we might have made, but can just treat the first as a sort of template. Finally, perhaps we don't want to show 9.6 seconds of this clip. If we want to shorten it, there are 2 ways to do this. First, we could cut out a portion in the middle by moving the playhead to where we want the cut to begin and split, then to where we want the cut to end and split again, and now delete the middle portion. Or, if I undo those, we can also drag either end of the clip using these little handle sections to shorten it. So there we go. I'm going to shorten the others as well, just so that this is quick for us to preview all together. The next step is we're going to want some audio. In reality, we'll probably have a voiceover, but I'm just going to use some stock music at this point. To do that, I click on the track I'm looking for. Note that it inserted it wherever the playhead was, and the length of the audio is constrained to the duration of the playhead through the end of the video. So if I move this back to the beginning, see how the audio extends? But we still cannot pull it past the end of the video. However, if I were to add more slides, you would see that the audio would extend to fill out whatever video duration is available. That is a little bit unintuitive, especially if you're coming from a more traditional video editor, but rest assured that even though a shortened audio clip may appear, it has not actually been cut off. So at this point, we have our audio playing in the background, or at least you would if I were feeding the computer audio through. And now we have our captions over the video as well, and we have cut the clips to our liking. Finally, I'm going to shorten this last clip a little bit more. Notice how it shortened the audio with it. And one more thing is perhaps we want the audio to cut out during this middle clip. So how do we do that? Well, unfortunately, Canva doesn't yet have a way to split audio like you would split video. But here's what we're going to do instead. First, we're going to right-click the audio and select Duplicate. Next, we're going to click to place the playhead where we want the audio cut to begin and let it snap to the line. And now, in the duplicated track, we're going to cut to the same point. So if we've cut this precisely, then where this one ends, it just continues seamlessly into this clip. However, we wanted it paused during this portion, so I will just shorten this or add another slide to give myself some room, then drag the cut portion to the right to pick up with the third clip. Now, as I delete these excess pages, it will, of course, shorten the audio once again, which can admittedly be a little annoying to work with. So probably your best bet is to shorten the clip before you delete these excess pages. Now finally, let's say we also want to give the text a little bit of life. We can do that using the animate feature. This can be done for a single element, like the text, or for the entire page, which means all elements on the page, more or less at once. Just to clarify, let's add one more element, and let's find something related to coffee. There we go. That is ugly and doesn't belong there, but again, this is just for demonstration purposes. So we could individually animate the text to have this pan effect, and then click on the element to give it maybe a stomp effect. Play it from the beginning, and you can see their animations happen simultaneously, and their animations go out at the end. Now we can go into the settings and edit the animation behavior in a little more detail. If you're a pro user, you can choose which direction it's going to pan from, and we can make it opposites for animating in versus animating out to the other side. And one new feature that was long overdue and makes me very happy is you can now choose whether it animates both in and out, or only animates in, or only animates out. This is very useful if you want to add more items to your slide in the next clip without removing the first one. Anyway, we're going to say that the text should animate in and then animate out, but the graphic should only animate in. To do that, I will go into settings for the text pan and make sure that it animates on both. Then I'll go to the icon and make sure that it only animates on enter. We will expect to see the text slide in and slide out, but the image will only have an effect on the way in. Let's verify. There we go. For demonstration purposes, we'll call this good as far as animation goes. But there's one last thing that you'll probably want in many, if not all, of your videos, which is to fade to black. To do this, we'll add a new page, and we can optionally extend the audio if we want the audio to continue. Note that you cannot currently taper off the audio volume. The entire audio is a single level, and if you split the audio to change its volume, unfortunately that change will be abrupt and not faded. Anyway, back to this slide. All we have to do is select the color, set it to black, and then we'll want to insert a transition. I recommend a dissolve, but you can play around to see what you prefer. What's more, we might make the duration a bit slower so it has kind of a gradual conclusion sort of feel. Here's what that looks like from the beginning. This is really the core of what you'll be doing in the Canva video editor. We've added audio and video clips to the timeline. We have split those video clips, and we've shown a workaround to split audio clips as well. Note that there is a limit of, I believe, about 100 clips as of publication. So if you're making a very long video, you might run into some limitations. If that's the case, what you would need to do is export the video, which I'll demonstrate in a second, and then import it as an entire finished clip and keep working where it left off. Anyway, we've also talked about how to use the timeline zoom to get a little bit more precise look at different points in your clips, and then change it to the thumbnail zoom to change the preview size. We've also looked at adding text and graphics to a slide, and some basic animations that help us give a little more slick and pleasant feel to the production. I should note that you can add video elements just as easily as graphics. For instance, maybe we want this clip to play over the top of it. And because this is an overlay, not a background, it will just continue looping while the main clip plays. Here's what I mean. You can see it restart, and then we're on to the next. I'll just undo to remove that rather unsightly addition. We're now going to call this video finished. So we go to the Share menu, where we have several options if we just want to share a link with outside users, or with internal Canva users, or directly to social media, or what we'll do most of the time is download it to use as we see fit. Now it's reminding me that I would need a Canva Pro subscription to export all of the items and effects that I've actually used. But assuming I did have a Pro subscription, we would choose from, in this case, either GIF, which I generally don't recommend because there's no audio, or an MP4, which is almost always going to be your best choice unless a GIF is very specifically what you're looking for. Then we can select which pages we want to export. It'll select all of them by default, and that's usually what you'll need. Now finally, we would hit the download button and it would prepare the file for our use. So that is, again, a basic walkthrough of the essentials of the Canva video editor. I may come out with updates to this as Canva releases new features, but this should get you started with creating videos of your own, and for that matter, with modifying templates to suit your needs. You'll find that the experience is strikingly similar to the Canva graphics editor. There's just a notion of timing that goes along with it, and that's why, of course, we have the timeline at our disposal. But the basic techniques of adding and modifying elements should feel refreshingly familiar. Thank you for watching this, and I'd love to hear your comments below about what you'd like to see more examples of, or other tutorials you'd find helpful. Please hit the like button if this has been of use, and I'll see you next time.